Judges, are you ready? Team, are you ready? You may begin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Benjamin Zeiper.
My name is William Schertzer.
And my name is Nikki Chussid, and we stand here before you to clarify the issue that arose in the case of Rachel Rubenstein and her self-driving car. The Beit Din looks favorably upon advancements in technology that save lives and mitigate damage, and encourages continual improvement towards the optimal algorithms that would promote such safety. That being said, it is hardly conceivable that the CEO of Aliva Industries, Mr. Eli V. Levine, would be liable for the damages of the accident, but rather the damages would fall upon Ms. Rachel Rubenstein. According to Bava Kama 1.1, there are 4 categories of damages: the ox, the pit, the chewer, and the fire. Halachically, we decided the car would be categorized as a fire. The Aliva self-driving car has many properties that mimic the behavior of a fire. Both the fire and the car exhibit predictable behavior, and in the cases of damage, both the car and the fire must include human involvement. They are both inanimate, move, and are subject to the forces of their nature. Here in Houston, especially during our trip to NASA, we have seen monumental advances in technology, especially as they relate to scientific phenomena. Perhaps one of the most relevant examples is fire. Fire has distinct properties which depend heavily on its environment. In the presence of gravity, fire will formulate into a flame, whereas in the absence of gravity, fire will form into a circular shape. Moreover, fire has an affinity towards flammable arid objects, such as gasoline or wood, whereas it is suppressed by materials such as water, therefore following the basic laws of chemistry and physics. The self-driving car is programmed with an advanced algorithm to minimize damages. When faced with 2 possibilities of damage, the car is programmed to veer toward the less severe option. The advanced algorithms located within the car's software make decisions exponentially faster than a human nervous system can and substantially eliminate human error.
Once the self-driving car is programmed, it has no ability to stray from the algorithm. The car acts according to the developer specifications, and by purchasing the car, Ms. Rubenstein has assumed responsibility of the car's actions, which forewarns its owner that damage is unlikely yet possible in the worst of circumstances. According to Bava Kama 9b through 10a, the fire is considered forewarned from the beginning. Its nature is to move around and consume both appropriate and inappropriate things.
Bless you.
Fire has the potential to stray from its creator's original path and cause damage in the process. Although the self-driving car is designed to minimize damage, its potential to cause damage when faced with obstructions provides a potential disclaimer. Additionally, Bava Kama states that a person is considered warned, i.e. fully liable, whether accidental or intentional, whether asleep or awake. From this, we conclude that Ms. Rubenstein is responsible for the damages, even though she was not intentional. Moreover, Shemot 22:5 supports our claim by stating that when a fire is started and spreads to thorns so that stacked, standing, or growing grain is consumed, he who started the fire must make restitution. In our case, the fire is comparable to Ms. Rubenstein's car, and the grain is comparable to the car that was damaged. Therefore, this passage further supports that our claim is that Ms. Rubenstein must pay for the entirety of these damages.
Bava Karma 22a through b should be considered in this case as well. This text confirms that the one who started the fire is responsible for the damages, similarly to how one who shoots an arrow and injures another is responsible for the damages. Rava backs this up by affirming that even if the fire starter did not intend for the fire to spread, he's still responsible for the perceived costs. Rachel's car is dormant until set in motion, just as the arrow is initially dormant. After Ms. Rubenstein ignites the car, she is accountable for its damages, despite her lack of intention. One would not blame an arrow manufacturer for the damages made by an arrow, as it's non-violent until put into motion. Unfortunately, her car caused harm, and while she had no intention for this to occur, she's still responsible for the fire spreading.
According to the responsa of Rabbi Moshe Sternbach, we are led to believe that Ms. Rubenstein is liable for the damages regardless of the damaged party's insurance situation. Rabbi Sternbach states, "It is obvious to me that he is liable, since what the damaged party receives is in exchange for his own private money that he deposited over time, and this deposit has no connection to the damager to be able to be exempt from payments just because the damaged party receives something in return for his own payments. Ms. Rubenstein, being the damager in this case, is responsible for the compensation of the damaged."
The Beit Din supports the algorithm found within the self-driving car. The ability to minimize death toll and damage is encouraged by verses that reference pikuach nefesh. This is further backed up by Ketubah 19a, which clarifies that life takes priority over everything except for adultery, murder, and sexual immorality. These are not the cases in the case of Ms. Rubenstein's car accident. These sources lead us to believe that this case does not provide a valid basis for the altering of the algorithm. However, much is still unknown to the Beit Din about the algorithm of the car. While minimizing damages and saving one's life is encouraged, halacha also teaches us it's forbidden to save one's own life by destroying another's property. With this in mind, we believe the code now is brought to our attention should be reviewed and checked to see if it prioritizes the non-driving passenger's life over the property of another person, and considers him and her as the least damages possible. If it does, the code should be reviewed and edited and to follow accordingly. In conclusion, the Beit Din finds that Rachel Rubenstein shall pay for the compensation of the car. However, lost wages and medical expenses shall not fall under her jurisdiction, as Tosafot 27b states that in the case of an accidental ox slaughter, the bare minimum price of meat is paid, and not the cause of damage is not paid, as it was under duress and unintentional. Insurance and health information is not covered and should be followed under the victim's plan as well, instead of Rachel Rubenstein's. Thank you.
Judges, you have 8 minutes for questions.
I have some questions. Okay, so in your written response, you actually started going in a direction of the car having properties of an ox. Were those, upon further reflection, eliminated?
We found a case like this to be monumental for the Beit Din, as it will set a precedent for future cases. And upon further review and the feedback we received from Prisma, we realized that the classification, originally we classified it as both an ox and a fire, but we realized that the ox classification no longer applies. As an ox has a life force, it's alive, and while an ox does not exhibit complete intelligence, it has volition.
And then can you just summarize again, because I was focusing on the written case before walking in here. What were your conclusions again about damages for lost wages and medical, and then whatever sources that correspond to your decision making?
Well, Tosafot Bava Karma 27b brings up the case of inheritance where sons executed or slaughtered a calf or a cow that they believe their father left to them, however, it turned out to be borrowed. In this case, because it was under duress and it was, they were unaware of the predetermined characteristics of the cow, they have to pay back the owner of the cow at the bare minimum market prices, but they do not pay for the caused damages. For instance, if this cow produced milk and was a big milk producer, they shouldn't pay for the lost wages of the milk, as it was under duress and they were unaware at the time.
Okay, so no lost wages.
No lost wages, just the car damage, the base.
And no medical.
No medical either.
I have a question to ask you that just bothers me very much.
Mhm.
In your written statement, you say that the owner is always considered liable.
Mhm.
Is there any circumstance in the whole wide world, in this universe, where the owner would not be liable?
100%. In the case of a stolen vehicle, the owner would not be considered liable.
Okay, anything else?
If there was a defect in the algorithm, however, with the case presented to us, we don't believe there's a defect. If there is, then that goes to Oliva Industries, but we have no reason to believe there's a defect as it followed through to its intentions.
So therefore you just essentially have really limited what the Ramban has said, what the Tosafot has said in Bava Kama said in 27b, which provide for severe distress.
Mhm.
Is that right? And why did you do that?
Well, we believe the severe distress in the modern day can be covered by workers' comp or health insurance from a national perspective or from a paid perspective. These aren't her responsibilities. By getting in the car, Shalom is allowing himself to be in the situation where he could be potentially injured.
I'm not sure I understood your answer. Let me ask it to you a different way.
Mm.
Isn't it true that Rachel had no idea of anything that like this was gonna happen when she turned the key, because she just bought a car.
Well, when she purchased the car, whether she decided not to read the cautions about the car beforehand, that was her choice. So it's her liability when buying the car. She's agreeing to the algorithm of the Oliva Industries. So by purchasing the car, it's assumed that she was fully aware of any repercussions that she could have on the road when driving the
So
car.
she'll always be liable.
Yes.
It's the responsibility of the consumer to be aware of what they're purchasing.
So if I could bounce off of that, what if she were simply borrowing the car from someone else who owned it? Who would be responsible for damages at that time?
That's an interesting idea. We've never thought of that, but off the top of our heads, I think, or my head at least, I think that this would be the case of the owner of the car, as they've not fully worn
And
you.
is there a text that you can use to support that answer?
Well, also in this case, you'd assume that the owner of the car who is lending out the car is aware that they are letting someone else drive their car. So they're taking into account both the liability of the actual car when bought from Oliva Industries and the possible dangers of letting someone else drive their car. So it's putting the responsibility back on the owner of the vehicle, because they must take into account both consequences when deciding to lend someone their car.
But couldn't you put that into the category of it being a hit, that the person who borrowed it fell into the trap of the responsibility of the car?
Well, the person that borrowed the car also has to start the car. It's the same instance of igniting the car is essentially starting the fire. So the person that starts the car didn't just fall into a moving car that happened to hit someone. They had to be under the same set of circumstances that the owner of the car would be when driving to start the car and therefore drive the car.
I do have another question, and that has to do with the element of programming of the car. Clearly, there's an element of programming in the car, but by assigning it as fire, you lose all those elements of programming. So I just wanted you to clarify that for me.
We actually believe that the element of programming contributes to it being fire. As fire has certain tendencies, fire will always burn oxygen, fire will always be attracted to dry areas. In the same way that this program is going to follow the same tendencies over and over and over again. Unless there's a defect, which again, we are not aware of in this case, if given the option again, the car would still swerve and hit the person. So similar as fire will always, be drowned out by water or go towards the dry stick.
And is there an element of duress that you feel you should consider in comparing that? Such as a gust of wind, what would be the duress in this case that would not be?
Well, we think that the pedestrian in this case can be compared to a gust of wind, which takes the fire and veers it off of its original path. So if the car was originally driving straight, the pedestrian made the car divert from its original path, which is the same as if a gust of wind blows a fire and sweeps it to a different direction it was originally going, it can be attributed to the same car.
So, couldn't it be argued that Rachel, when she bought the car, was relying on the company, Oliva, to have a program to protect her, to do nefesh takua, and therefore she is not liable because she relied on somebody else, such as Oliva, doing the right thing.
Well, when she bought the car, she's relying on Oliva to do whether they do the right thing or the wrong thing. She purchased the car, so she's agreeing. She hopes that the car will save her life or mitigate damage in any situation. But at the same time, when she steps foot in the car, she's agreeing to the consequences that maybe there was a defect in the algorithm or anything could possibly happen when she's inside the car.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Time. Ladies and gentlemen, first I want to thank all the groups that presented here today. Everyone must leave the room so that the judges can deliberate. We invite you to the Sam Houston room 12:15 for the closing ceremony. Thank you.
Can I take one more quick picture of my growth?